Hello everyone, welcome back to Alternative Apex. We're here at the Ardennes Forest, round 11 of the 2022 Formula 1 season, the Belgian Grand Prix. It's a much sunnier day here in Spa than it was yesterday in qualifying, as we saw a wet to dry session lead to quite a mixed up grid here, and add some grid penalties to that, and it is going to be quite an interesting one for you guys to see, so make sure you see that one in just a few seconds. Here is the circuit that they'll be racing around today, the longest circuit of the Formula 1 season, so lots of time for these drivers to make those crucial overtakes that will, of course, be very important in getting a good result today. So here is the starting grid after a very exciting qualifying session. It is Daniel Ricciardo and McLaren who start on pole position. After a wet to dry session, they were on the track at the perfect moment and secured pole position by a large margin. Charles Leclerc lines up on the front row alongside him with Bottas, Sainz in third and fourth, ahead of Fernando Alonso and Pascal Wehrlein. And then it is Sergio Perez, Kevin Magnussen, Max Verstappen and Lando Norris who round out the top 10. Just outside the top 10 is Lance Stroll and George Russell, followed up by Esteban Ocon and Lewis Hamilton, who is one of many drivers to have a grid penalty today. Behind them it is Nico Hülkenberg, Mick Schumacher, Pierre Gasly, Alexander Albon there in 18th, with Nicholas Latifi, his teammate, in 19th. Then it is Yuki Tsunoda in 20th, then Zhou Guanyu, head of Sebastian Vettel, who brings up the back of the starting grid. Now it is time to go down to the grid to see everyone preparing for today's race. I think a McLaren on pole position was something that not many people would have expected going into this day, especially Daniel Ricciardo, who across the season so far has been the weaker of the two McLaren drivers. However, he nailed the switch to the dry tyres, absolutely got on the track at the perfect opportunity, and will start on pole position because of that choice. Leclerc, championship leader, will line up second, but his teammate is not far behind him there in fourth, so I imagine we'll see those two battling out once again this season because, well, that's what they spent a lot of the season doing. However, Leclerc starting second, it will be crucial for his race that he gets quickly ahead of Daniel Ricciardo in the McLaren because whilst he may be starting on pole position, I think we've seen so far this season that McLaren in dry conditions and normal conditions where there's no real drama happening, it is not a top car like the likes of the Ferrari and the Red Bull, and to an extent the Mercedes at times this season. So now the drivers are making their way through the final chicane of the lap, of the formation lap that is, making their way on to the grid now, preparing for today's race, making sure they've got their cars ready with tyres and brakes up to the temperature that they desire them to be, making sure they do everything they possibly can to give themselves the best chance of getting a good launch off of the start, off of the start, and then getting the best possible braking abilities into the first braking zone of turn 1. But then after that, there is a very long, flat-out section all the way down towards the Les Combes. So it is crucial that you get a good start here, because if you don't, if you lose one position into turn 1, there's a good chance you can lose 3 or 4 more as you make your way down towards Les Combes, because there's a lot of track in between you and there. Now it is time for the race. Lights are on, and we are racing in Spa. It's a good start from Daniel Ricciardo as he immediately comes over to cover off Charles Leclerc, who looks to the outside. He's going to get his car to the outside there. Sainz a big dive up the inside. Daniel Ricciardo going to hold the lead on the inside. Charles Leclerc right alongside him though, and he has the traction out of turn 1. That Ferrari's roaring past the McLaren as they're going to go side by side up Eau Rouge. They're side by side through Radillon. Who is going to come out on top here? It is Leclerc, who braves it around the outside and will get up into the lead of the race. Daniel Ricciardo is not going to want to let that happen. He's going to be straight into the slipstream of the Ferrari, but it doesn't look like there's much he can do. He hasn't got the speed at this point, as in the background we see that's Fernando Alonso up the inside of Valtteri Bottas. Sainz has got up into third place here, as then there's racing behind them. That's Wehrlein and Perez battling out for 6th position there. Then you've got Verstappen now getting ahead of the Porsche, as there's a car off in the background. I believe that was an Alpine. I think that's Esteban Ocon who's gone off in the background. Let's have a look. It is indeed Esteban Ocon in the Alpine who has gone off there on lap 1 of the race. That's, well, I suppose one of the better times to make a mistake like that, but still not the start to his Grand Prix, as he now sits 22nd, but it's Leclerc who leads the race up front. Now let's have a quick look at a replay here of Esteban Ocon. Let's see what happens to him. So he's following Lando Norris through Les Combes here. There's some battling going up ahead of him, and he goes through this next right-hander. Oh, it just looks like he maybe was going quite a bit quicker than the McLaren in front of him with Lando Norris, and had to sort of avoid the McLaren quite last second, resulting in him going off the road there, sort of overcorrecting if anything, as now we get the view from Nico Hülkenberg. Let's have a look here, and yeah, it just looks like he has a snap of oversteer. Perhaps, I don't know whether he was avoiding the back of the McLaren or whether he just was trying to push a little bit too hard. Either way, ended up with him off in the gravel on lap 1 of the race, so not an ideal start for the Alpine drivers. Now we see Daniel Ricciardo in third, defending from Valtteri Bottas, but it wasn't going to happen there at all. Locks up into the chicane, makes a mistake, and now loses another position to Fernando Alonso as well. Perez and Verstappen are the 2 cars behind him now. The 2 Red Bulls, his former team, will now be looking to try and get ahead of the McLaren driver as he makes his way through turn 1 now. It is now Bottas up into the final step on the podium. Now we see racing. Lewis Hamilton started way down in the field here, and now he finds himself battling away with some other cars in this mid-pack. He's got a big pack of cars up ahead of him. Oh, and he's into the pits. He's into the pits here, so he started down the order, and at the end of lap 2, he's clearly picked up some damage somewhere, because the Mercedes driver is into the pit lane, and let's see, will they change the front wing? That indeed they will. They will be changing the front wing, so there's damage to the Mercedes on lap 2 of the race. Let's see where this comes. So it's actually come on lap 1, going into the bus stop chicane. Let's see what's going to happen here. Oh, out of nowhere, Mick Schumacher barges his way down the inside, slams into the front right of Lewis Hamilton. That probably damaged his front right end plate. And in the process, lost them both, got a few positions. Let's see now, on board with Mick Schumacher. He's not even a car behind Hamilton, he's behind Hülkenberg here. He's going to go up the inside. Oh, he brakes way too late, locks the front tyres, both of them locks up, and then straight on into the side of Lewis Hamilton. Look at the amount of cars swarming around the Haas car to try and get away from there. As now we see on board with Hülkenberg, he's just following Hamilton into the chicane, when all of a sudden comes Mick Schumacher. And, well, that was a mistake that wasn't really a forced error from Mick Schumacher. That was unnecessary from him, but in the end it looks like he's been able to keep going. He may have lost a couple of places, but it was Hamilton that definitely came off the worst from that incident. Now we see Ricciardo having to defend from Sergio Perez in the Red Bull. Going into Les Combes now, he's going to go to the outside of the McLaren. The Red Bull should have the grip in theory. Can he pull the move off? It looks like he's ahead now. So they go into the next right-hander. Can he go all the way around the outside using that extra little bit of grip? There is Verstappen got very sideways in the background. That's Verlaine now going to the inside of the Red Bull behind these two. So we've got lots of racing here as they make their way back down the hill. Let's see who's going to come out on top in this battle. It is Perez who will slide up the inside of Daniel Ricciardo and get ahead. And it's Verlaine who gets ahead of Verstappen. And Verstappen looks like he made a small mistake. And that was enough for Verlaine to get through. He's going to look down the inside of Paul, and that wasn't going to work. That one definitely wasn't going to work. There is now it looks like he has to lift quite a bit there as Verstappen, and he's lost even more time to the cars behind him. Now we see Verlaine is the next car to catch and pass Daniel Ricciardo. Verlaine's had an up and down season so far, and he's looking to up himself another position now into Les Combes. Look at the speed on that Porsche, straight line speed, much better than that of the McLaren. That perhaps explains why Ricciardo struggled on lap 1 of this race, because he got sort of flown past by the Ferrari of Charles Leclerc. So maybe that McLaren is down on top speed now. As we're going to see later on that lap, Max Verstappen is right on the back of the McLaren. He's going to go to the outside here as they make the run down towards Blanchimont. That would be a very brave move. And it would also be a move we've seen Verstappen pull off back in 2015. He's going to try it here in the Red Bull on the McLaren. He's going to go down the inside of the bus stop chicane. Another lock-up from Daniel Ricciardo. He's going to only lose one place, though, on this occasion, as Ricciardo loses down into 8th position. Max Verstappen is up into 7th place now in this race, as he will now look to try and hunt down Pascal Verlaine in the Porsche as Ricciardo. Well, I'm sure will be looking back in his mirrors as Kevin Magnussen is now on the back of him and will be looking to try and progress his position. Now I see Verstappen on the back of Pascal Verlaine to go into turn 1. Verlaine looks like he's gone a little bit wide there, and he has indeed. He's missed his apex. That's going to allow Verstappen to get on the inside of the Porsche. They're going to be side by side down to Eau Rouge. The Red Bull will have the better top speed. It does indeed look like he's used a bit more ERS there coming out of turn 1. Now up through Eau Rouge and Radio. Look at the Porsche all over the back of the Red Bull there. Maybe a little bit more downforce on the Porsche, but let's see if that's true, because we're about to see a straight. Let's see what the top speed comparison is like. The Porsche with DRS is going to fly back past the Red Bull. And that was well fought there from Verlaine as he gets back ahead of Verstappen in the Red Bull. He made the move in turn 1, but in the end the DRS went back to Verlaine, and that gave him the position back as he goes a little bit wide there. Verstappen still on the back of the Porsche. Looks like he's got the better pace, but at the moment isn't quite able to get up ahead of him. Now we see a battle here between Kevin Magnussen and Daniel Ricciardo making their way down towards Les Combes. Side-by-side racing here. Magnussen on the outside, going to try and go all the way around the outside, and that's a nice clean move there from Kevin Magnussen. Brave stuff around the outside of Les Combes. Ricciardo now drops down to 9th place, and at this rate is not going to score points today in this race, despite starting on pole position. And, well, when a reliability issue isn't sort of causing a driver from pole starting from pole to not score points, it's not very often that you see a driver who starts on pole failed to score points. So let's see now, as racing further back in the pack, George Russell racing with Lance Stroll into the bus stop chicane. Aston Martin versus Mercedes. I don't think this is the battle Russell would have wanted to get himself in today, but after starting further down the order with grip penalties, he is being forced to race some of these cars he wouldn't perhaps normally race. Lance Stroll, of course, running in 10th place at the moment for Aston Martin. They are yet to score a point this season. So the fact that Stroll is currently running in the top 10, really big for that team, so he'll be doing all he can to fight off the Mercedes driver, as we now see Charles Leclerc making his way into the pit lane. straight through this tricky pit entry now. Going to need to change his tyres. Probably going to go to the medium compound of tyre now. You can see him making his way down pit lane at pit lane speed. Swapping over the tyres to the hards. And that should commit him to a nice easy one-stop strategy here. Tyre wear isn't too high around this circuit, so he'll be happy with that strategy, I imagine. As then we see George Russell in full position. Now he's stayed out, so as Sainz and Perez. So a lot of drivers still out on the racetrack. As now we see Carlos Sainz a lap later is going to come into the pits. He's trying to overcut his teammate here. The gap back to his teammate is about 15 seconds. I don't think that's enough for him to come out ahead here. The pit stop being significantly longer than that. So Sainz makes his way into the pit lane, switching over his tyre compound. And let's see, goes to the hards as well. So equal strategies out Ferrari, but it is indeed Leclerc who, with that undercut, has defended the lead and is now 3 seconds ahead of his teammate Perez. Coming out of the pit lane now, he's going to come out behind Fernando Alonso, who's going to jump up into third position in this race. Perez will be looking to try and take that podium place away from us. Bottas, who was running in third place before the pit window, has dropped down significantly, so it looks like there's been some sort of mistake in his pit stop, because he is down to 5th place now, with Wehrlein the car behind him, with Verstappen still stuck behind the Porsche driver. Even after the pit window here, as we see Lance Stroll after the pit window is still up in 10th place, so Aston Martin looking good so far today. Oh, but no, Mercedes engines, they've gone again. Another Mercedes power unit failure here as Lance Stroll running in the points paying positions. Aston Martin pointless so far in 2022, and it looks as though that will continue here as 11th place last time out in Hungary, running 10th today, and the engine has failed for the Aston Martin team. Disappointment for them, but now we see Sergio Perez on the back of Fernando Alonso here, going into Lecom, side-by-side racing up through here. Nice clean move again, seeing some great action through that little chicane. Perez up into 3rd place now, and in that Red Bull, will be looking to pull away from the Alpine, which so far this weekend has not quite had the same level of pace as the Red Bull racing car. Now we'll look further back to the back end of the points. Daniel Ricciardo defending from Kevin Magnussen here. Magnussen going to the outside of Lecom. He's made this move on Ricciardo before, and he's going to make this move again. Great little bit of racecraft there from the Dane in the Haas car as he gets up into 8th place. Ricciardo back down to 9th, but looks like with Pap Stroll's retirement, that's pushed back a few of the cars behind him. So Ricciardo looking a little bit safer in this race now in 9th place, although Russell and Hülkenberg aren't that far back, as we see Wehrlein battling with Verstappen. Verstappen is going to get past the Porsche once more into turn 1, so he's made that move again. Can he keep ahead though on this occasion? Because we saw last time that Wehrlein was able to slipstream straight back past down the Camel straight into Lecom. Let's see. He's right behind the Red Bull again here. Not quite as close as he was last time, but that may actually help him with a little bit more time in the slipstream. DRS is going to open up here for the Porsche. Gets squeezed a little bit to the inside, but Porsche flying past Red Bull here. The two Porsche-powered cars, you can tell which one has got the lower wings and which one's got the higher wings there. As Wehrlein gets up back into 6th position here. DRS helping him, of course, but that Porsche still very quick on the straight. And still is the second highest Porsche-powered car in this race so far. So, a very strong day from Wehrlein, as now we see Verstappen on the back of Wehrlein once more. These two do not look like their battle is going to end anytime soon. I imagine Red Bull won't be very happy with this. You're maybe sort of a customer of Porsche, but you still expect some level of teamwork between these two teams. But it seems that both Porsche and Red Bull have only got their own interests at heart in this race in particular. As he is up into 6th position again, got it done into the bus-stop chicane. But again, he's going to find himself having to defend, and that, you couldn't do a thing there. The speed difference down the Kemmel straight, absolutely enormous. And the Pascal Wehrlein Porsche is back up into 6th position. An absolutely massive difference of top speed there, and Verstappen has to settle back down to 7th place as he'll be looking to try and get that position before the end of the race now, as we're getting closer and closer. As now we see George Russell passing Ricciardo. Ricciardo's missed the corner there and is going to drop quite a bit of time. He's now going to be just barely ahead of Nico Hülkenberg, but Russell is up into 9th position now. Ricciardo into 10th is going to have to defend from the Porsche. Can Hülkenberg take the final points paying position? Will the pole sitter miss out on points on raw pace here? As they make their way down towards Lecom. Down the inside goes Nico Hülkenberg on Daniel Ricciardo. Last late breakers though is Daniel Ricciardo. He's fighting this one hard as they go side by side. Still racing this one out. But Ricciardo in the end looks like he's going to have to give up on that hope of points today. The McLaren team just not looking like they're quite got the pace this weekend, despite starting on pole position. Now on lap 21, Carlos Sainz has edged his way back up to his teammate now. Charles Leclerc We've seen him pull away from the front so many times this season, but today that has not been the case. It's Sainz who looks like he's got the stronger pace. He's only 4 attempts back as they make their way towards Eau Rouge Radion and then the Camel Straight. Can Sainz take the fight to his teammate now? He's going to have DRS. Can he make the overtake? This is going to be a dueling Ferrari battle as they make their way towards Les Combes. Sainz is in the slipstream. He goes to the inside. He's going to get squeezed almost to the grass there. He's on the inside of Les Combes. Charles Leclerc's going to fight this one back around the outside though, but Sainz holds his ground. He's going to take the inside line and he's going to take the lead of the Belgian Grand Prix. Brilliant racing there from Sainz. He's been in the shadow of his teammate so far this season, but finally he's fought his way ahead of his teammate, and now crucially he's going to have to try and nail this next lap so that he can be enough ahead so that he doesn't come under risk of attack from his teammate once again. Now as Leclerc is going to have the DRS down the Camel Straight for the final time in this race. Carlos Sainz leads the way ahead of Charles Leclerc, but Leclerc, he's got the DRS, but he hasn't got the gap small enough. It is Carlos Sainz who continues to lead through the Les Combes chicane, and now, if he keeps it clean, this is very much his race to lose. Charles Leclerc just does not have the grip at the moment to take the fight to his teammate, and that looks like it's going to be how it finishes now, as Carlos Sainz comes up to the final couple of corners, breaks for the bus stop chicane, gets it into the first apex, gets it into the second apex now, and for the first time since round 3 of the season, Carlos Sainz is going to win in Formula 1 as he wins the Belgian Grand Prix. A brilliant drive there from the Spaniard as he fights off his teammate. Brilliant racing there, and he won that very much on the racetrack. He didn't have to rely on reliability. He didn't have to rely on unfortunate luck going the way of other drivers. He has been able to secure the win today on his own, and that is a great victory for Carlos Sainz. We see a battle here between Wehrlein and Verstappen. These two battling it all the way to the flag, and in the end it's going to be Wehrlein who takes that position ahead of Verstappen. Kevin Magnussen and George Russell did catch up quite a bit in the end there, but not quite enough to get involved in that scrap. As we see there, Carlos Sainz, our race winner for the first time since Imola. Brilliant drive from the Spaniard. And, well, he's been living in the shadow of his teammate ever since Imola. And, you know, he won the Italian Grand Prix, well, one of the Italian Grand Prix, and sort of looked really like Ferrari's star in that moment. But since then, he's just faced loss after loss after loss. Finally, he has been able to show his speed once again, find his feet within this Ferrari team, and that is exactly how you do it. You do it in style. Carlos Sainz wins the Belgian Grand Prix ahead of his teammate there. Looks like he just took care of his tyres. Looks like he just took care of the race. And in the end, it was, well, quite an easy overtake to make. I say that. They battled very hard for it, but as soon as he got ahead, that was the race done. But it looks to me as Leclerc just didn't have what it took to fight back in that final lap. And in the end, Carlos Sainz takes his first win since Imola, so a huge gap between wins there, and I'm sure he will be overjoyed to be back on the top step of the podium. So congratulations to Carlos Sainz. Now we look to the race results for today's race. Indeed, it is Carlos Sainz who wins and takes fastest lap today. 3 attempts quicker than his teammate's best attempt in second place there. Sergio Perez completes the podium for Red Bull Racing. Again, Red Bull not quite there with the pace of Ferrari at the moment, but still took what they could here today. It's Fernando Alonso who takes 4th for Alpine, a strong result for the French team. Head of Valtteri Bottas for Alfa Romeo. P6 for Pascal Wehrlein to a strong drive for the German and Porsche. Head of Max Verstappen, Kevin Magnussen, George Russell and Nico Hülkenberg rounds out the points-paying positions. Now we look over to the Drivers' Championship. Carlos Sainz has put a bit of a dent into that championship lead of his teammate. When that lead finally grew to 55 points, ironically, that was when Carlos Sainz fought back in this championship fight and brings that gap back down to 47 points, but that is still a huge gap for him to attempt to close up for the rest of the season. So, still looking like a Charles Leclerc's championship to lose. However, it is still too early in the season to say anything is definite here. So, Charles Leclerc leads the championship by 47 points now after his teammate cuts into that lead just a little bit. Verstappen sits third in the championship, but only 4 points ahead of his teammate now, so that could be a fun little battle to watch for the rest of the season ahead of the 2 Mercedes cars in 5th and 6th. Russell ahead of Hamilton still, and it's Bottas best of the rest in 7th, ahead of Fernando Alonso and Esteban Ocon. Then in the constructor standings, it is Ferrari who still lead the way after another brilliant result for the Italian team ahead of Red Bull. Mercedes sitting third in a world of their own at the moment, with Alpine ahead of Alfa Romeo at the moment, but that battle still looks like one that could well go to the end of the season there with Alfa Romeo's recent turn in performance, but Alpine have also been really strong in recent races, and that should be an interesting battle to watch for the rest of the season. Then we have Porsche in 6th, then it is Haas, McLaren, AlphaTauri, Aston Martin and Williams. Of course, the final 2 there, both still yet to score points this season. So that is it for today's episode here in Alternative Apex. I hope you enjoyed it. A very exciting race, I think, today. Lots of battles throughout the field, and to see those Ferraris dueling it out for the victory once again was really exciting, I think, and it's been a while since we've seen those two properly battle it out for the victory, so nice to see that has returned again, and it'd be interesting to see if Carlos Sainz can build on this momentum now as he finally looks like he's found his footing again within the Ferrari team, so fingers crossed the battling continues. And, well, next time out, it is Ferrari's home race in Monza. So the second Italian Grand Prix of the season. Carlos Sainz won the first one. Who knows what might happen in the next one. So make sure you tune in to that one when it comes out. Subscribe to the channel so you make sure that you don't miss out on future episodes for this. That is it for today's episode. I hope you all enjoyed it. And until next time, goodbye.